Welcome, everybody, to the weekly Aurelian's Fair, the live stream event for the Restitutor Orbis Channel. And I'm glad that the event is proceeding, albeit not exactly as scheduled for this weekend, but we're still holding it regardless. And let's get the hellos out there. So starting off, hello, Chassis Nix. Hello, Adam Baum. Good to see you. Hopefully you don't have any stories about animals battling when you ask about construction. Hey, Jamie, good to see you. Hi, Kathy. Hey, Cruising Gal. Good to see you all. Who else have we got out there? Go ahead and say hi. I would love to acknowledge you. Oh, here we go. M1, good to see you. Hey, T-Fetch. Chris Malcolm, good to see you from Sioux Falls. I need to do an exploration of Sioux Falls. That's an interesting place. Hey, Nobody's Preacher, good to see you. Eric Anthony, welcome. Juliana Angelina, welcome. Charlie A, good to see you. FM44, good to see you. You like that one, didn't you, Adam? And Dub Connection. Maggot, good to see you. It's like to have someone from Western Australia. That's an interesting place, too, with all the locations we have there. All right. Well, looks like we got a great crew to start. So prior to getting into the exploration for this particular live stream, hey, Debbie, welcome from Florida. Oh, thanks, M1. I appreciate that. And Cruising Gal, no, that's not my face on the Gladiator. And maybe we'll get around to talking about the real story behind my face and how what I actually look like is truly irrelevant. But it's very interesting because today, oh, hey, Chassis from North Mississippi. It's interesting to me because today it seemed like there were a lot of forces that were conspiring to try to prevent me from doing today's live stream. Hey, Don, welcome from Northern Michigan. And I think I've encountered weather phenomena that I've never seen in central Iowa and western Iowa. I was over there to attend a funeral of a close friend, and as it happened, I got to see some family. That part went really well, but then driving back, trying to get back to my regular location, I think I went through the worst weather I've seen my entire life. And those of you who've been on the channel a while may know that I was born during an F5 tornado. And I swear I saw some interesting weather phenomena today. So not sure what to make of it. I'm not going to speculate. I'm just going to say that I'm happy to be here and I'm happy to see you all. And we're just going to go ahead and get started with the exploration because we've got some interesting things to look at, and we had some great explorations. Hey, Ham Walter from the Arctic Circle. So is that either Northern Alaska, Northern Canada? You'll have to let us know. All right. Well, let's go ahead and get started here. And here we go. Can you see this image? Well, it looks like you've all been experiencing the same weather phenomena that I experienced today. Yeah, I've never seen anything like it. It was as though it was, I'd call it torrential downpour or monsoons. If anybody's been in Southeast Asia, it felt like that. But the strange thing is typically in the Midwest, you get a little microburst storm that lasts 5 to 10 minutes where it's really intense and then it dissipates or it moves on. But these ones just seem to endure for a long time. That's a good one, Jamie. You know what? And I was thinking of that when I saw this building too, and it really caught my attention. And believe it or not, all the times I've been to St. Louis, I was not aware of this building. And this was the Civil Courts building, so aptly named. But what did you all think of this one? This one came up in the St. Louis exploration. Oh, north of Finland. Okay, thanks, Ham. Yeah, it's a beautiful area up there. No one wants to say that somewhere in the Arctic Circle isn't beautiful. It's very beautiful up there. Yeah, it's a good call out there, M1. And you know what's really intriguing about it is they say it's modeled after the, and I'm going to mispronounce it right now because I'm just going to be honest with everybody. I'm a little out of it from the long driving conditions, but the mausoleum at Helicanarsis, one of the 7 wonders of the quote-unquote ancient world. That's a good one, Kathy. Yeah, it's pretty sad that they basically just ripped that movie off instead of making an original movie. But hey, that's what we got in the 21st century, and we get to see that all the time. And yes, don't worry, we'll be returning to film reviews here shortly on the channel. I can hear what you're saying, and you can see on the community tab yourself. But So, quick point outs for this one. What I really liked about this is how they got the columns up this high. And of course, we had that great construction photo. Yeah, it's a good one, Eric. And then also the statues that they had on it. But then this basically pyramid on top, and then the other statues. We'll get to those in a second. Well, actually, we'll just go ahead and get to those now because, and this is our patented Art Deco building because, of course, every city has to have an Art Deco building. That doesn't really make a lot of easy sense to explain. But what do you think of these statues up here on this one? These statues really got my attention. Well, Ham, 50 miles is 50 miles. Good one, Jarmy Vicious, who stole my post office. But these statues really got my attention too. And again, something else that I was not aware was up there. Yep, 1920s, and yeah, there you go. Good comments, all of you. Sphinx design, and that's really what it feels like too. Something from that era or from whatever civilization had that as symbolism. Remember, it's not symbology, it's symbolism. Willem Dafoe. Yeah, that's a good one, Eric. I need to get to that one in the Nebraska Capitol. Very likely. Hey, Rip the Jack 3R. Welcome. Good call out, all of you. Yes. The symbol, although remember, I've got to be careful on what I actually say. Sometimes I just have to imply things, but you're saying it. So thank you very much. Welcome, Acer. Yeah, and that's a good call out too. Could be a cherubim. Supposedly chassis, but that's what we're told. Who knows if that's the original origin of it or if it has some other origin behind it. Yeah, that's a good one, T. Fitch. I do wonder if there's something Roman in that, or not. Maybe I shouldn't say that because we're always trying to assign names to what this previous civilization is, and while I just generically call it Tartaria, it could be anything. We just don't know. Hey, September 26th, welcome. Thanks for joining us. And since I got you all on here, just go ahead and please make sure you hit that like button. It's great to have everybody here, and I'm glad to see that we've got more people joining the live streams because these are a lot of fun. I think it's just as enjoyable as the explorations themselves. Yeah. Okay. I'm not gonna show that one, but that's a good one, T Fitch. Hey, Bluegrass, good to see you. Now, this was the image of it that really caught my attention because this is where it really looks like it's one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. And I always wonder about the 7 wonders of the ancient world and why we had that designation or why they said that and why they wanted to remember those structures. And I don't wonder if there's something more to that. And that's going to be in an upcoming exploration. We already touched on it a little bit. So, hey, Sydney, welcome. Thanks for joining us. All discussions are open here and all are welcome. That's a good call out there, Chassis. Yeah, I'll go with that one too, Eric. There's something that's just very unique about this one. And let's just look in on one of the statues here. What do we think we have here with this particular statue? Oh, don't worry. We'll get to that cool picture where they're putting up the column. But then there's also the little detail that you have here. And then you go up to your little pyramid structure, building that up, and then culminating with the statues on the top. Hey, John G. Yep, that's St. Louis, September 26th. That is St. Louis. Yeah, I think it's eagle, although some people say phoenix on that one. But we always see the birds all the time. Yep, put the numbers together. They sure add up a lot, don't they, Templar TV? Could be Juliana, or it could be an eagle. We're not sure. Some people will say they know, but maybe there was something in the representation that was changed. Yeah, and that's a good call out there, John, for a civil courts building built in St. Louis, United States, 1920s, 1930s. Welcome, Mike. Good to see you. All right, let's head to the next one. Ah, yes, here's that lovely, wonderful photo where they're putting together the column. I just don't know how exactly he maintained his footing like that. That is impressive in and of itself. No, I haven't gotten to Maryhill, Washington, Stonehenge yet, but I will be getting there soon. A lot of things on the list, but yeah, this is a very convincing construction photo. Well, of course, look at this. I mean, you're keeping your footing that way. I mean, I wonder if he has some sort of strong adhesive on there or what. I think I got some interesting comments. Yep, and I'm with you on this one, Chassis. I'm with you on this one. There's something that looks really off about this. Bingo. And these aren't things that I'm going to come out and say in the videos, but you're all very intelligent and observant people, and this is what I like to see in the live streams is where you really call this out. So, crazy glue. All right. So yeah, I don't find it very convincing, and it certainly doesn't convince me that this is an actual construction photo. So, yes, that might be. All right, we'll go on to the next one. And here's another one of our very convincing construction photos of the overall civil courthouse or civil court building. They've got multiple names for it. And as we're looking at this, just a friendly reminder for all of you who have just joined us, please hit that like button. But how convincing is this photo after looking at the other one? What I like is when you go down and you look at the base and how everything is always so symmetrical on a certain side. And there's nobody there. Well, what'd you come up with? Please let us know, Rip the Jack. Oh, we'll get to that. There was a picture where you see that they're facing both directions and they're facing through the Sphinx. The Sphinx are looking through the arch, while the arch faces east-west. So the Sphinx are facing both those directions. Yep. No, right, all of you. Good observations. I think also when you look at this portion right here, things get a little cloudy. And don't we wonder why that is, Eric? Don't we wonder why that is? Well, and you know what? That's something I'm going to do when I get to St. Louis is I'm also going to take a look and actually shoot everything currently with a compass. So, and I do wonder on this one. All right, we'll move on. We don't need to look at these interesting construction photos anymore. Here you go. So here's where you're seeing exactly where it faces and how it's lined up with the arch, at least. And it's bizarre because it's almost as though they built the arch to line up perfectly with this statue, or though someone wanted a photo op and said, hey, let's build a 600-foot tall arch over here. We're going to say it's the gateway to the west. But in reality, we're creating some sort of add-on image for this lovely statue. Yeah, I don't wonder. Reconstruction. Nope. Yeah, that's a good one there, Kathy. There is a creepy vibe to this one. And I think that's something we have to face also is it's clear that whatever civilization came before us, they definitely had their time where they were in the ascendant and they had their time where they were in the descendant, and who knows what exact forces were at work there. But we'll be getting to those in some theory videos coming up to explore exactly what happened. So Well, that's possible. Or maybe it's just a what they call red herring in fiction, just something to draw our attention. It's always something we have to be careful of, although, you don't want to get to the point where you're seeing conspiracies everywhere. But when you see things that don't add up, yeah, you kind of have to ask questions and try to come up with some theories and see what evidence matches those theories and what things you have to change. So, and coincidentally, the St. Louis World's Fair was another one that my great grandfather attended before his unfortunate series of events. So there's all that to consider. All right, let's go to the next one. Okay, and now to the St. Louis City Hall. And I don't know what it was. There was something about this building that really stuck out to me. And welcome, Dwan, if I'm saying that properly. I was unaware of it as well, and I'd been to St. Louis many times in 1994. Oh, yeah, you're right. Those statues did. The clock. Oh, dead on there, T Fetch. Dead on. And it's definitely a sinister looking clock that they have built right into it. Nope, it has that fairy tale vibe to it. Okay, thanks, Dwayne. I appreciate that. Come across many different pronunciations these days, so I just want to make sure I get it right. Yep, the three portals. That's a good call out, and interesting windows on it, and other windows very interesting. Maybe there's something to be signified with that. I always like it how they have the grand steps leading up to it, and each of the arched doorways, and also consider the fact that you got three doors again. So, yep, and we wonder about that one, Juliana. Or is it different construction, or did they simply have different capabilities at that time, or was there a different story with that structure? We don't know, but we certainly see evidence of that. So that's a good observation. Yeah, and maybe they do, or maybe that's just what they tell us, just like the Bene Gesserit did to the Fremen in the Dune books. That's something else I need to get to because they always had the mythology that they themselves created and imposed on the people. And I know you're thinking, well, wait a minute, Aurelian, you're the one who says that we can turn to myth potentially as sources of truth, potentially as sources of truth, but nothing's all encompassing. We always have to look at everything. Yeah, that's another good point. You have similarities, but you're right. No two are exactly the same. Layouts are similar, certain construction cues are similar, but when you compare the buildings holistically, no two are the same. It's a very good point. Let's go to the next one. So this was supposedly an original post-construction photo around 1904. Of course, who knows? You know how I feel about that. But you can see some more of the detail here on the side, again, with these lovely portal windows. But also with all the little spires and the details that go up on top. I think that's what makes this one even more interesting. And even in this black and white photo, you can see the two different types of construction that seems to be common in those older buildings where they have a base or a foundation and then they add it to the top. Yep, that's a good point. Oh, yeah. And I haven't gotten to talking about triple archways, but you do see them a lot. And there's a lot of great theories out there about what they could mean. So, and you know what, Chassis, that's a good point. And they could have been torn off or they could have been damaged by something and then reconstructed. And, possibly by diminishing capabilities in the previous civilization. That's something we need to consider. So you look at the baseline here, and these were when they had greater capabilities, but then as they built up, perhaps their capabilities were diminishing. Although compared to what we can do today, when you see this lovely tower, one has to wonder, don't they? And then, of course, we got the lovely flag up there. So anyway, bridge at the bottom. Let's take a look at that. Yeah, possibly. That's a good comment there, David Green. And I don't wonder if there's truth to that. I don't wonder on that because you see a lot of evidence. Muzzle flash, that's a good one. Greeks, Romans, and everyone steal the columns and triangle design. Maybe. Or maybe it was some other civilization that already had it and everybody used it. Yeah, that could be. And that's a recurring theory that we see. Yep, true enough. All right, let's go to the next one. So here's an interior photo of the City Hall in St. Louis. And I've seen skylighting like this before. You'll see it in the Iowa State Capitol, and you'll even see it in the Polk County Courthouse in Iowa, but you also see it in many other old world buildings where you have this kind of skylight. Yeah, the First Empire style, if you're referencing that, Ham. First Empire Renaissance Revival style. Yeah, expensive. And then you ask people about doing something like that today, and you'll get the same baffled look. Well, it's very expensive, and we don't have all of our traveling artisans, and we don't have Charles Ingalls and Mr. Edwards going around anymore. So it's just not doable now. Sorry, but don't worry. All those immigrants did it in the past, and they will assure you. It's interesting some of the feedback I've gotten on the Cincinnati video because that's gotten out to some, let's just say, viewers who are outside of the mode of thinking that most of us are in, and they've had some interesting comments. I'm sure you've seen some of them. Yep, that's a good one. Piece of cake, and I'm sure it's really cheap in winter because, it never gets cold in St. Louis. So, all right, let's go to the next one. And this is just a more modern, all-encompassing photo here where you can see the coloring a little bit better with the nifty clock. 3 arches. There was something else. Oh, yes, I wanted to talk about, they, again, have the scaling on the columns that we see all the time. And just imagine something like that with that kind of building capability where you could scale columns. You could make columns of any scale, very large, very small, and you just had them ready to go. And we do have evidence of that because we supposedly have the columns from the original Capitol, the U.S. Capitol, that are still on display that you can go see today. Yeah, that's a good call out there, September 26th. And I certainly agree with multiple energy sources. Laser technology? Yeah, I wonder, Chassis. They had to have something. Yeah, they say the same story, which is why I'm getting away from telling the story. I prefer just to do the exploration because, you basically see the same thing with the narrative account on how these were built. It was immigrants, it was prisoners, it was slave labor, and they did it in a very short amount of time, and they did it very well. So unless you see a divergence from that story, I tend just to cover it in brief detail and then get to the exploration. Find that's working a little bit better for the flow of the explorations, but we'll see. Who knows? Maybe they said it towards the end. I think things got really nasty towards the end of the previous civilization. I suspect that. And that's probably the dead one on there, M1. All right, let's go to the next one. Welcome, Eric's Cool Cars. Good to see you, and thanks for joining us. They've got some mixed accounts about it for this building. And I'm not sure if they did or what on this one. The other thing is you get strange accounts when it comes to plumbing and bathrooms. Some that they have to pull in there and so forth. Yep, and that's always the question there, Dwayne, that you wonder on is the logistics behind it because, a lot of times we don't even cover the logistics, and then defenders in the mainstream don't even want to hear questions about the logistics. Well, they just did it. They threw it on trains. They had trains that went everywhere, and they had horses and carts that went everywhere, and you could easily move blocks. Okay. All right, and now it's time to get to the Anheuser-Busch brewery. So, trying to find historical data or a narrative, if you will, on the construction of this beautiful castle complex was nigh impossible. They really just say that it was established around 1850. Yeah, nobody needs bathrooms, do they? And yet you see the same kind of construction cues on this one with the big blocks towards the base of the building. But then you look at the tower. We always have to have that huge clock tower everywhere. Oh, that's a great one, Jamie. Yeah, that's a good call out. They supposedly are, and probably are, very likely. I went through there once about 23, 24 years ago. It's a very unique place, Malta. I'll have to look at an exploration of that too. And that's something else I'm targeting there, Adam, is looking for where they had those depot facilities because there is some evidence, believe it or not. There are some remnants, but if we think about it, those would have been the facilities that were targeted or destroyed or would have been scavenged for materials for a civilization that was either nearing its destruction or a new civilization that came afterwards trying to reestablish some things. So yeah, it sure does, Rory. It sure does. And the same type, too. And moving over here, you see some of this detail with the brick. And like, why do you have to do that on the windows? Why would that be necessary for a brewery? I mean, we can go over the usual questions on it, but you have to wonder what this building was originally for. Like, look at this. Just the detail with the brick and everything. I also like the coloring on it. And this is something you can still go see today, right down to the smokestacks and everything. Even the smokestacks. Look at this. Why do you do this on smokestacks? Yep, good point there. I got you, Eric. I'll work on that. Need to get back there. Yeah, and it's interesting how those kind of documentations turn up, isn't it? And welcome, Grant. Well, thanks for the head up there, Cesus. I wonder why. I get that sometimes, but I guess I shouldn't be that surprised. So typically, we always go at 5 p.m. Eastern Time, 9 p.m. Greenwich Median Time every Saturday. But today I had to move it because of a personal situation. So, but we'll be back on next Saturday to the regular time. And Jarmy, there's also a limestone depot in Minnesota in the middle of nowhere in one of the oldest towns in Minnesota. But oddly enough, in all the surrounding towns, they didn't use any limestone. They just constructed the courthouse and the opera house in this little town that never got more than 500 people. So there's definitely something amiss with a lot of these stories. There's no doubt about it. Yep. No, that's a good call out. So, yes, this one's newer. I think this is something they built in the 60s during that urban renewal. I could be wrong. And then they put the more modern Anheuser-Busch logo on it. But I mean, you look at the rest of it, and it's funny. It stands out real well. I even like the entryway here. I mean, look at this entryway. I mean, this is how you know you're going into a palace. And you see that same type of cross design there. I mean, we call it a cross, but cross with the four directions on it. Oh, yeah, the Napa Valley Castle. So, hey, Scottish Tart. Yeah, I'll be getting to Seattle. That's on the list. Okay, well, we'll move on to the next one. Yep, I see Hearst Castle. Don't worry, I got a few pictures of Hearst Castle. Not going to forget that one. That was a fun exploration to do. And hey, as though you knew it was coming. Okay, now conspiracy theories are going to start. I mean, conspiracies are going to start as opposed to conspiracy theories. Someone made a great reference to our good friend Harrison Pates in today's video, and I found it just comical because I'd completely forgotten about him. Like, oh, yeah, I'm just going to label anyone and everyone who disagrees with me an extremist. So Well, and who's to know what the real style on this is? It's, we could really call it anything we want to. And they say it was modeled after, I'm trying to remember the name of the church in Spain. And to be fair, it does have some similar design cues. But what's interesting to me is how everything is just mixed together in this castle, this building, this structure, whatever you want to call it. Thanks, Eric, for reminding me of that. That's right. Remember, scientists and historians. And no, I am not a card carrying historian anymore. So you can't listen to me. All right. Welcome, William Cooper. Good to see you. Providence, Rhode Island. All right. Well, suffice to say, I've got some explorations scheduled for Connecticut, so that's easy to head over to Rhode Island. We can do that. Yep. And it's such an interesting story behind this building. And then when you actually go and you see the structure, so. All right. Here's our construction photo of Hearst Castle. I didn't notice this before either. Yeah, there's no doubt about that one. There's something interesting going on there. In Southern Cal. Yeah. Welcome, Bobby. Thanks for joining us. And just a reminder for all who have joined us, please be sure you hit that like button. I appreciate it. What is going on up here? I didn't notice this earlier. I mean, are we to really believe that this is the actual outer facade of this so-called castle? I don't know. It could be, but there just seems something off. Yep. And yes, Chassis and Juliana. It's a good one, Adam. Yeah, Adam, you had a very interesting conversation with someone who claimed to be a first-person witness there of what was going on, and they told you a great animal battle story. I mean, you asked about some construction methods, and you got an epic animal battle story. What was it? It was a camel and a water buffalo, and the camel won with a kick. Which is kind of funny because I've seen what camels do when they're threatened, and they tend not to kick. They tend to spit. But, it could have just been an extreme situation. I don't want to question the story. It was an entertaining story, even though it had nothing to do with your question about construction. Well, that's a good point right there. These little obelisks, these ones. And you know what? They come up in a lot of places. You see them in cemeteries. You see them added here. The Enchanted Hill. Yeah, that's right. Well, I'm glad you had fun in that conversation. But also just seeing the interior of it, you're looking in the interior of this other tower here and you see this detail. And that's when you actually go and you visit Hearst Castle. That's something you can't deny is just all the detail and the solid construction materials. They'll try to tell you, oh, it was all temporary. Okay, well, it's all temporary. How's it still standing in 100 years later? But, it's just like I like to say during that particular exploration in that video, Julia Morgan can do anything. You know what? And maybe she could. And if she could, then we needed to find some way to make her immortal because she could probably sort out a lot of the challenges that are going on in California today, or at least the challenges we're told are going on. So, okay, moving on. Oh, yes, the beautiful interior picture. Now imagine having a living room like this. What would that be like? And remember, this was something else that was thrown together very quickly because they moved in just a few years later. Richard Casaro. I'll have to take a look at that. Yeah, for me, it's also the internal photos, the interiors that make a big difference, especially when you always have these very beautiful, elaborate fireplaces, quote unquote. No sarcasm in voice there. Yeah, that's right. Good one, Jamie. A real slap up job. Well, I appreciate that. And thanks for joining us. Templar TV. I like that. All right. Let's go to another interior photo here. Oh, yes. And I remember, yeah, I remember walking around this part of it when I went on tour there back in, I think it was 2013, if memory serves. And I remember just being blown away by some of the detail right here with the doorways and then the fireplace. Yep. Well, I'm sure Julia Morgan invented some of the pre-versions of Roomba, and they cleaned it with Roomba. And maybe they actually had replicants that went around there and cleaned it. You know, replicants from Blade Runner. Probably. You know what? I wonder on that one. I'm trying to remember who they said these were. These were inscribed, or these were reliefs of, and I don't remember. It was a long time ago. They tried to claim it was Hearst, I think, and then either his actual wife or what was her name, Marion, his mistress, who was the person who really facilitated the social life at Hearst Castle. Very interesting story, and they were quite open about that. And then, of course, where would it be without our detail here in the ceiling? Yeah, that's right, Dwayne. I want to know where you can get ceiling tiles like this at IKEA. That would be something cool to see. Just going to go down to IKEA tomorrow and check it out. I want to find my beautiful ornate ceiling tiles because I got a castle I'm going to build on an enchanted hill. Well, thanks for that. Enjoying the outdoors. I'll go ahead and pop that up there. The other thing that was interesting is supposedly some of the works of art, and of course they explain it by saying William Randolph Hearst was obsessed with collecting art. Yes, he was. And he was also obsessed with working closely with his genius architect. I mean, who wouldn't be? If you had all that kind of access to someone who was a genius like Julia Morgan, who can innovate things on the fly, why wouldn't you want them to do anything and everything to build you the perfect castle over 30 odd years? And that's another one. And I don't wonder if they use the flags to try to draw attention away, because if you look behind the flags, what have you got? Well, you've got your old construction cues right there. And then they're back there as well. Just some of that detail on the walls. I mean, just imagine doing all that. Yeah, that's a good one, September 26th. And you get that feeling. You get a very mystical feeling, a very ethereal feeling when you walk through that building. Yeah, for some reason we don't have those yet, do we, Eric? I can't imagine why. So, all right, let's go to the next one. Oh, yes, the indoor Roman pool. One of my favorites. And this was something else that really stood out to me, is just the way this one's lit up. And I remember walking in this one too and trying to imagine what it would have been like to swim in this beautiful pool. Oh, that's a good one, Grant Rogers. That's a good one. That's definitely something to look into. I always like the lights on this too. There's something very otherworldly about the lights, and some of the other details I didn't call out in the exploration, the change in coloring, some of the overall construction supports on this. I mean, imagine doing supports like this. So yeah, and this is something you could see that would really give people, if nothing else, just the impression of a healing power. But you have to wonder if there was more to that. Those old legends and myths about the Fountain of Youth and finding a special pool. And you see those all over the place. You even see it in Batman, and they even implied it in The Dark Knight Rises. That's how he was able to heal his broken back. And it was a reference to that. Now, of course, they just showed the guy smacking his spine back in place, and then he hangs there for how long and has a conversation with Ra's al Ghul, good old Liam Neeson. Yeah, that's a good call out there, T-Fetch. And that's just, what are the healing properties, and what's the purpose of this? I mean, this is very interesting when you look at it. So, but let's go on to the next one. Oh yeah, here's another one of your beautiful, beautiful, well decked out living rooms where you just hang out in. All the detail in this one. Of course, it's got another fireplace. Yep. And Old World Exploration just covered that place. That's a quite interesting location, Helena. And he did a great job with it. It's a great video. And maybe they had some other technology that we don't know of. And if Hearst Castle truly was a construction from a previous civilization, we have to wonder what, and yes, I like to say that, and I will with this one, what was its original purpose? And was it some sort of sanctuary? Because it is very isolated. Oh, yeah, that's a good one there, Grady. And it's something else, the unique beauty in the tapestries that they had back then or whenever. Yeah, that's a good call out there, Chassis. Oh, good one there. September 26th. I forgot to mention that. You're right. They do oxygenate the water. Not a drop of chlorine. No chlorine and no fluoride. I wonder why that is. And there's probably a lot of truth in that because if you ever go in water that's running over granite, you get an entirely different perception and feel from that. So, oh, could be. Could be Rubiador. Could be. Well, either they were in awe or they had some idea of what they were going to find, and then they were in awe of what they could do with it, or maybe some combination of the two of them. Yep. All right. Well, we got through the photos a little faster today. So, but I think some of the things that come out, yeah, the true purpose of the fireplace, that's a good one. I think some of the conclusions that can be drawn from this week's explorations is, we've seen a couple different cities where we've got some buildings that we really can't explain very well. And of course, the naysayers are going to come out in full force and tell us, you're insulting the immigrants that built all those wonderful buildings. Like I've heard that one a lot on the Cincinnati video. And like, I'm not insulting anyone. I'm not suggesting that the immigrants didn't do it. Maybe they did. It was just at a different time in a different place, and there were different circumstances. But, people have to come out and they've got to say what they've got to say. And I understand that. And, you're more than welcome to express your opinion. But it just gets to a point where you just hear repetition all the time and you realize, oh, yeah, that's how the belief came by. Repetition. So, yeah, a couple good ones there. And then the other thing I was going to mention, like some of these constructions, they could have an origin in our contemporaneous society. And that's something we always need to say or recognize. And why would they do that? Well, because if you confuse things, you can make it very difficult to determine what really happened. And if you think about it, that's always the objective at the end of the day. Well, that's a good point. It's funny though, because what people always try to bring up is they'll try to bring up the fact that saying something or suggesting something is insulting to people, even though it's a different theory. If I could go back and meet the people that actually built all these buildings, I would love to. I would love to meet the people that photographed them. And, if they were, as we're told, great. And if it's people from a different civilization, I would just like to know how they do it, what they went into. Welcome, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Crangs. Oh, yeah. Shredder, you idiot. I don't do a very good Krang. Yeah. Pat Farley did that voice incredibly well. Yes, I did watch Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Now you know more about me. Yep, that's a very good point. All right. Well, since we're done looking at the photos, why don't we just go ahead and open up a question and answer about any of the videos that you've seen or direction the channel's going. So, oh, you got a good one there, M1. What's that? Well, and that's true. And I'm looking forward to getting to some of the comparison videos. I've got some concepts for comparison videos we're going to do where we look at comparing the structures in the United States to Europe, or even I'll just say North America to Europe, because we can go up to Canada. There's lots of incredible, beautiful things in Canada that are just as old and who knows, maybe older than what we have in the United States. And if we go down to Mexico, there's lots of beautiful structures down there as well. Lots of old world structures that tend to get overlooked, just because there's so many everywhere. And I think that's a comparison that we need to do. And I'm looking forward to doing that, looking at what the narratives are and how they say that some of the buildings in Europe were slowly built over 1,000 years, 1,200 years, say a monastery, for example, or some of those cathedrals, Cologne, anybody. And then compare it with the cathedrals that we threw up in the United States or Mexico or Canada, and we say we did it in 2 to 3 years. Yep. Oh, okay. So go with the whole they were immigrants from Europe and what their skills increased when they came to the United States or Canada or Mexico. Oh, and then the logistics were easier too. Let's not forget that. So could well be. Could well be. Good question. I don't think anybody knows the exact answer to that. We're not meant to know the answer to that. I think you've seen my theories on it, and at least how long ago it was. But if you saw the date or what year is it video earlier this week, you saw that it's tough to have a baseline event. When is a good question. How many years ago is probably the best way to ask that question. So yeah, you guys are welcome to, or excuse me, all of you are welcome to submit videos or whatever you want from around your area. If you want me to include them in videos on the channel, if you'd like me to credit you, I'd be happy to do that. So oh, yes, and that's another whole point there, Westman. You're absolutely right. It's clear, like just in the United States alone, to say nothing of even Canada or Mexico, you've got that phenomenon. That's the reason why I posit that there's many different eras. So, and what did you think of that one, Chassis? Well, here's the other thing, Matthew Daniels, and thanks for commenting and welcome. I mean, personal, yes, but then it's also important not to be too personal. And since you brought that up, I'll just go ahead and tell you the story of why I don't think my face is that important. This research that we're doing, it is far more important than any one person. And that's what I genuinely believe. And that's why it doesn't really matter who Lucius Aurelian really is. What really matters is that any one of you can be an explorer. Any one of you can make a difference and pass this knowledge, or even just doing your own explorations and having this knowledge yourself. It does make a difference. And I know every day we're told that it doesn't make a difference, but I truly believe that just having the awareness makes a huge difference. And that's why it's so important. Oh, you just had to go there, didn't you? September 26th. Yeah. Yep. Maybe so. Maybe so. But you know what? I'd really be credit my job. I mean, they could just produce a face easily enough because they've got all this great technology, right? So I've seen a lot of them. And here's the thing, though. I mean, those channels have been around much longer. They've got a much larger audience, and they do great research. The other thing is, I'm trying to approach the research independently, and here's the reason why. Because I think having a different perspective can really help us get to the truth. One of the issues that we see with the mainstream is that you have one centralized entity or institution that dictates how everything else is going to go, and then it happens. And if in my previous university experiences, that's exactly what happened. And you better cater to that in patronage. Otherwise, your career is not going anywhere and you'll never get tenured. Have a nice life. I have been to Natural Bridge, Kathy, and that's a good one I need to cover. Thank you for reminding me, because when I was there, I had different eyes. So, well, I guess it just depends where you want to say I come from, because I was born in Iowa. I've lived in Georgia. I've lived all over the United States, and I've worked in Europe, and I've worked in the Middle East. So that's probably why I have no accent that stands out. Sometimes you might hear a crazy Southern accent. Other times you might hear a crazy Northern Minnesota accent. It just depends. So. That's a good one. I have, and it's a great video, and they did a really good job. And thanks for mentioning those researchers too. And I think what happens is, the longer this has been around, they'll look for any means necessary to discredit people. They'll try to turn alternate researchers against each other, trying to play on jealousy. And here's the reality. Real alternate researchers don't have those kind of feelings. They don't see things in that manner. And that's always an easy way to know if you're dealing with someone who's genuine. What are their intentions? Are they really trying to figure out what the research is and find answers, or are they just trying to go around in circles? And in my experience, very few people actually go around in circles who do this. I mean, yeah, you have to go back and research a lot of things over and over again. That's not going around in circles. That's changing what theories you find valid and what theories you don't find valid. And I certainly have a lot of respect for researchers that do that. Well, thanks. I appreciate that. So, hi, Cliff State Park in Wisconsin. Yeah, please do. And I'll be on my way back to Wisconsin at some point. I need to take a look at Devil's Lake. And there's also another special location in Iowa that's with Devil's Lake that's quite similar. And that's going to be a special exploration coming up. Well, that's what they try to do. It's just a classic tactic. So, yep. And that's a great series. Thanks for calling that out, Jamie. Family and friends. Well, just like I do with any other topic, I know that might sound like a cliched response, but if you try to really reason with people and you just try to drop things a little bit at a time, typically you'll find a little bit more of a reception to it. And I've actually had some family and friends who've had more of a positive reception to it. Now, are they all the way convinced? No. But when I integrate it in with how I live my life and how I interface with them and just make it seem natural, it's interesting to me. They seem to be a little bit more receptive to it. Whereas if, you try to approach them and say, hey, did you know that this, and this is actually true and that everything you thought is wrong? Well, you tend to get the automatic response and it doesn't go anywhere. So hopefully that answers that question. So great point there, Chassis. And that's really what the purpose of the live stream here is. And I think we get a lot when we work together and we do that, and the live stream is always going to be here. It's always going to be on Saturday. And yeah, you're right there on that one, Adam. Oop, lost that one. Sorry. And they're very good at dividing and conquering, and if they won't exploit your physical differences, then they'll exploit your differences in experiences. They'll exploit your differences in where you lived or where you identify yourself. So Devil's Lake, Wisconsin, Chris. Devil's Lake, Wisconsin. There is a Devil's Lake, Wisconsin, too. Yep, and that's a good point. Now, here's another question I'll get. Does this make these people wrong or evil if they're not ready to be woken up? No. I think we've all been there. And I think that's something that's easy to forget. And it's not that people have bad intentions. It's just when that's all they know, you have to have some different experiences and you have to slowly expose some people to it and just give them the different idea. So, yeah, that's true. At least that's what they say. But in any event, all right. One other question I have for y'all, and I'm going to ask it right now. So, got the response on the community tab with the video reviews or the film reviews, I'm going to say, and I know those are pretty popular with most of the core audience of the channel. But I'm probably going to look to go back to doing those once a week. It'll be on Mondays, and film reviews are your thing, and you like how that ties in the old world. You got it back on Monday. And if not, don't worry. It's not going to change the rest of the content. We're still going to be doing city explorations, special location explorations, and theories and everything else. The nice thing I find, though, about the film reviews, whether you like them or not, is they help me keep my thoughts organized well for the subsequent explorations in the week. So, even if it's not your thing, you don't want to watch the video, just remember there is a good purpose in it because it does help me see things from a different perspective. You'd be surprised all the things that you could get from looking at Mad Max, the first one, 1979, and how you can apply it to a lot of old world aspects. Because believe it or not, you'd never think on it, but the original Mad Max movie, which was made on a shoestring budget, no, they didn't have the budget of Zardoz, they managed to put some incredible stuff in that movie. So that's why I want to get back to that. Hey, thanks for that, little blue Mustang, and welcome. And that's a good point, too. And you might notice that There was a series of Italian movies made in the 1980s where they went to the Bronx all the time. Apocalypse in the Bronx, Killer Bikers from the Bronx. You can go look it up. It's kind of comical. But the reality is the Bronx was destroyed in the late 70s, and those Italian filmmakers were doing some brilliant location shooting. And it's interesting when you think about it. Well, thanks for that, Subtle B. I appreciate that. And since we got a few more people who've joined, just please be sure you hit that like button. I appreciate that. Well, that's a good question, Chris. Who knows? Who knows how deep it really is? Yeah, I don't wonder on that one, or the Tower of Babel, or what that's really all about. That's right, Max Rockatansky, the one, the only Mad Max. Don't worry, Adam Bomb, I'm getting to it. We're not forgetting Mark Singer either. And got to give Mark Singer his due. You know, when you've got nasty lizard people, you don't call David, you know who, you call Mark Singer. Richard Casaro. Let me make sure I get that one written down. Richard Casaro. Got it. Yeah. Imagine if Carl Sagan made a cameo in V. That would have been interesting. You think he would have played one of the heroic scientists that the visitors were hauling away when they were trying to suppress humanity's resistance before it began? All right. Well, are there any other questions, or how about this? Are there any other explorations you would like to see? Any other types of explorations? I've gotten plenty of requests for different locations, but our types of explorations right now, we've kind of settled on cities. We've got unique structures. We've got theory videos. So, yep, that's very true. And that's really where it was filmed too. Broken Hill. Oh, I'll get to that reference, Lulu. Don't worry. That's a really good one. Meet me in St. Louis. You are absolutely right. Artifacts, out of place artifacts. Oh, yeah, that's definitely something I could get to. And probably tie that more into a technology video as well. Nature. Yeah, that sounds about right. All right. Well, I think that's a good stopping point for the day. But if there's anything else you want to get across to me, feel free to leave a comment once the live stream is posted. And if you have any other concerns or anything you want to share, you can always hit the official channel email, or you can hit us up on Reddit or on Twitter. So, oh, you want to go back to that one, huh? More Operation High Jump or Operation Long Jump, as it were. There just might be a few more explorations tabbed on that one. Did you know that good old Admiral Byrd went to the North Pole too? Yeah, we got to take a look at that. Oh, that's a good one, Scotty. That's a great one, actually. That is a great one. So, okay, Spokane, Washington. Yep, that's on the list. Don't worry. Just got one more important city to do first that connects to the ones that we just did, and it's probably the most bizarre one by far, especially with the narrative that they give us. So, all right, that's definitely one of those, Jamie. Just so you know, that's one of those things you have to be careful about how you say it. You can explore it, but you just have to be a little careful. So, yeah, it might well be. All right. Well, if anybody has any other comments or anything, you know the means to share them. And don't worry, Chris, I'll get to it. Boston tunnels, too. There's tunnels all over the place, but some are a little more well documented than others. Certainly the Atlanta Underground, that goes in with that, too. Maybe I'll just do a video where I look at those 3 or 4 locations and compare and contrast them. I think that might be a good way to handle it. But you let me know in the comments if you think there's a better way to handle it. So, All right. Well, thanks for joining, everybody. As always, it's great to see you. And let me know if you have any other recommendations going forward. As always, explore yourself, ask questions, and you'll restore the world. Thanks for joining me, and have a great weekend.